Crapmore gang, global tensions are on the rise since Donald Trump busted into Venezuela and kidnapped the president Maduro. Now, apparently, there are now secret terrorist cells surfacing in Venezuela. Trump is apparently expanding his eyes on Iran, and he's going to slide on them next. And apparently, the U.S. and Russia are now in a high-stakes race to seize an oil tanker. And the craziest thing of all is now, okay, I'm scared of even talking about these guys, okay, but one of the cartels in Mexico, okay, the Sinaloa cartel, is actually coming out to basically give their opinion on what Trump has been doing around the world. But before we get started, okay, there is a few ongoing worldwide celebrations about Trump busting into Venezuela and kidnapping. Maybe that's not the word, arresting, maybe that's the word that you want to use, but he has slid and people are still celebrating jubilantly, and they're basically loving what Trump did, okay? This is basically people on the left, this is a tweet, all right? People on the left are saying Venezuelans hate Trump, but meanwhile, the Venezuelans are literally kissing the screen, trying to kiss Trump through the phone. Look at this. Mi amor, y venga para acá usted, pechocho. Gracias. Now, a lot of people, including political streamers, okay, are not feeling this reaction. They like to tell people how to feel. And of course, one of the people that is the most prominent when it comes to telling people how they should feel and giving ill-informed opinions on how everybody else should do business, it's of course Hassan. He basically crashed out at Venezuelans celebrating Maduro's capture because Trump can't possibly do anything right. He can't even by accident, roundabout in a backwards way, end up doing something that some people actually liked, and he's crashed out. Look at this.
He's bombing he bombed Caracas, he arrested Maduro, and a lot of those Venezuelans, some of them are going to be in the chat today, are going to fucking talk like this is a fantastic moment and Trump is a great liberator. Bitch, he's saying you're a rapist, okay? I need you to understand this. If you are a fucking Venezuelan expat, if you are a Venezuelan refugee living in the United States of America, understand something. He is saying you're a rapist, drug dealer that will get sent to fucking CCOT, okay? It doesn't matter whether you like Maduro or whether you hate the Chavistas or whatever the fuck, okay? He will use you like a pawn. Okay, you're like a cum rag. That's it.
Now, it's pretty outrageous stuff to be saying that, right? Now, this is in the live stream fail subreddit. Okay, some people are saying the finger wagging speaks volumes, all right? He's trying to cast a lightning spell, but there's no target to lock onto, okay? Some people aren't feeling it, all right? Hassan knows better than anyone about how other people live in their own countries, and he'll tell you while he eats DoorDash. Shout out to DoorDash one time. I'm not going to lie. It is what it is. You got to get that DoorDash in sometimes. Maybe not every meal, but certainly sometimes, man. And as you know, Hassan definitely loves the shock and awe campaigns when it comes to his own pets. But anyway, some other shocking new reports have come out to basically allege that actually a Middle Eastern terrorist organization has been running active operations inside Venezuela. Check this out.
Questions remain over how Venezuela will be run in the aftermath of the U.S.'s capture of its leader, Nicolas Maduro. One outstanding issue is how the U.S. will handle Iranian-backed terrorist group Hezbollah, which has had a drug operation stronghold in the country for decades. Anna Schechter joins me now. She's a senior coordinating producer for the CBS News Crime and Public Safety Unit. So, Anna, what do we know about Hezbollah's operations in Venezuela and its connections to the Maduro regime?
Well, Hezbollah has had a foothold in Latin America for years, going back to the 1980s. So this is well established. You have a large population of people who do work for, it's almost like the mafia. It's like a transnational mafia operation where drugs are trafficked, some of them even from the Middle East through Venezuela and then going on to Europe, going on to the Americas. Some of it is Colombian cocaine, Colombian-made cocaine trafficked through Venezuela. So it's like a passageway. And Hezbollah members are absolutely there. They are stockpiling weapons. In fact, the U.S. even caught Iran trying to send missiles to Venezuela to position them. And it was Hezbollah operatives that were going to be receiving them and setting them up in Venezuela. This is well known to the CIA and the State Department and certainly was in the background as the United States government was making this decision to go and get Maduro.
So now you're beginning to understand, right? People are saying, "Oh, now Trump's turning on." He's not turning on, but now Trump's saying he wants to go and do a madness to Iran. Oh, why this doesn't? It's all connected, people. Okay, and as much as people want to say, "Oh, it's capped," there is no. It's not about. It's about the oil. It's not about the narco terrorism. It's not about. Actually, it sounds like the narco terrorism is a thing. They're using drugs. They're using cocaine that's being manufactured in Colombia and Venezuela to fund terrorist operations, Hezbollah, which is backed by the Iranians, they're causing a whole lot of problems. They're trying to get into Venezuela. They're trying to get weapons in there. They're trying to do the worst to the United States and infiltrate through any means that they can, basically, okay? And now it's starting to make sense. And again, I'm not glazing Trump, but it's like, people are like, oh, this doesn't make, why would he be doing this? Actually, there's actually some good reasons why some of this stuff's going on. And he is actually disrupting these criminal and terrorist networks that are actually causing a lot of problems and are a real big danger to America.
With Maduro out, what happens to Hezbollah operations there?
That is the million-dollar question. What happens now? They were operating with basically impunity. They could just keep doing their drug trade, which was pulling in tens of millions of dollars a year. Now, who knows? They can probably continue this operation, but maybe they feel a little bit more uneasy. They were definitely protected by the Maduro regime. So let's see. It might be, unfortunately, that not much changes, and this drug trafficking route, which is really hard. It's hard to stamp out illicit trade like that. But the intelligence community, we do have sources on the ground that give us intel periodically, and so we do find out about it. It's just really hard to stamp it out.
So it is very complicated. It's all connected, right? People saying Iran is next. This will hurt China's oil supply. This could be good for the West and freedom, right? They're saying this is why the US has to bring democracy back to Venezuela. Now, let's be real. Doesn't really sound like they're bringing democracy back to Venezuela. If anything, they want to come in and run the show. But if that's what they got to do, that's what they got to do. I don't know. Like, maybe, maybe it's not time for democracy. I don't know. I'm a big fan of democracy. I would love to see direct democracy where the people can actually vote on the issues and the policies day by day. But that's a tall order. That's probably never going to happen, at least in the current system that we have. But, okay, let me just move something out of the way. But, all right, there's a lot of things going on all around the world. This is a hot situation, and it's all connected to Russia and Iran and China. Everybody is all fighting for the top spot right now in the world, okay? And meanwhile, okay, the US and Russia are apparently in a very serious and high-stakes battle to seize a sanctioned oil tanker that's currently sat in international waters. You've probably heard about international waters. There's no law, and basically they're going to have to duke it out over who gets all of this oil, and it is all about the oil or oil at the end of the day.
Well, soon after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, a couple years later, they had started sanctioning this shadow fleet of oil tankers and adding to the existing sanctions on tankers transporting Iranian oil, Venezuelan oil, but no one had enforced those sanctions until now. So this just shows the hollowness of that previous policy. You could blacklist these tankers, but they could still sail fairly freely on the high seas, and the U.S. has taken dramatic action to stop that. Now, the one that they seized off the coast of Iceland today had been sanctioned in 2024 for carrying Iranian oil. It had taken a trip from Venezuela, changed its flag, hastily painted a Russian flag on the ship, and changed its name, and the U.S. Coast Guard boarded it, despite it being escorted by a Russian submarine. Now, I think Putin's got to be worried because the price of oil is coming down. The price of Russian oil in particular has come down as a result of U.S. sanctions, and now the U.S. has finally decided to enforce those sanctions on blacklisted, these shadow fleet tankers. So that's going to spell trouble for him in terms of Russian oil revenues dropping even further.
You got to understand what's going on here, and I touched on this in a previous video, but again, the whole world of geopolitics is very complicated at the moment, okay? It all is related. It all relates to, everything's interconnected, all right? You got Ukraine getting invaded by Russia, and America basically saying, no, we're not going to let you, we can do it in Venezuela, but you guys are too, no, it's not going to run. We're not going to let you do that. We're going to send weapons. You're not allowed to sell your oil. Russia weren't supposed to be able to sell their oil all around the world. We were sanctioning them. We were saying, nah, if you're going to use the oil to blow up Ukraine, which we want to have interest in, you're not going to be able to sell. We're going to tax that oil. Not even tax it. We're not going to let you sell it. Now, they were still moving around in the shadows, moving it. They had these dark shadow ships that were flying under the radar, flying through international waters. Well, the US and Trump is now saying, nah, hell no. We're taking that shit. Stole that shit, just like 6ix9ine said, right? I took that shit. You didn't know what to do with it. Now, this is pretty big news, okay? Because Russia are shit scared of the United States. China are looking at this thinking, oh man, we thought we were about to take over and be the big dog, but like we can't move. Like we can't make these sort of moves like the US are making. Like we are too pussy. We're too weak. We got the Timu warships, okay? We got loads of them, but they're all Timu'd out. And the United States warships are actually serious. And they're saying even though this ship was being followed and guarded by a Russian submarine, the US said, fuck that, we're taking it. Hell no, all right? People saying it's not a shadow fleet, not insured by London. Putin must be fuming, right? People saying India buys Russian oil. It's a war crime. US invading oil-rich companies and using drugs as an excuse is major qualifications are required for being nominated for Nobel Peace Prize. People saying we're one step away from World War III. You might argue that World War III already started. It's Cold War II, World War III. But anyway, okay, what's interesting is President Trump, he took to Truth Social. Now, I don't know if this link is going to open because I don't have a Truth Social account, but Trump took to Truth Social to announce the US's first ever major oil deal with the new Venezuelan government. All right, let's see what he said. He said, I'm pleased to announce that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 to 50 million barrels of high quality, high grade, top shelf sanctioned oil to the United States of America. The oil will be sold at its market price, and that money will be controlled by me as President of the United States of America to ensure that it's used to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. And I've asked the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, to execute this plan immediately. It will be taken by storage ships and brought directly to unloading docks in the United States. Thank you for your attention on this matter. Now, the thing about Trump is he says the quiet part loud. Back in the day when George Bush was invading Iraq, invading Afghanistan, he said we slide him for 9/11, but also we want that oil. And Trump don't give a shit. He's saying, look, I'm proud to announce Venezuela, they turning over 30 to 50 million barrels of high quality sanctioned oil. We were sanctioning that oil. We was telling you not to sell it. You was having to sell it to the low to our enemies to get your bag. Well, we're taking that shit and we selling it on the market. And we're going to give you some of the money to help the people of Venezuela, but also the people of the United States are going to benefit. So I'm hoping to see them United States gas prices start going down, okay? But interestingly, just days ago, all right, Trump actually warned the Iranian government, all right, which we've talked about previously. They're saying that, Iran are backing this terrorist group, Hezbollah. They're going into Venezuela, taking money from the drug trade to get weapons that they want to use against the United States. Now, what's really interesting, okay, Trump has warned the Iranian government of any direct military intervention if security forces continue to kill peaceful protesters. So there's protests going on in Iran. Trump is basically saying that's got to stop or we might just come and fuck your shit up. And it won't be the first time we've done it. But apparently Iran has still been killing the protesters since that warning. So at some point, Trump's going to have to slide.
Since the U.S. captured Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro, President Trump has been warning a long list of countries, including Iran. Nationwide protests there against a cost of living crisis are ramping up. And President Trump has warned that Iran will get hit hard by the U.S. if protesters are killed. CNN's Paula Hancock has the latest.
A female protester is dragged from a street in Tehran. Demonstrators run for cover as gunfire is heard in Malek-Shahi, a city in Iran's western Ilam province. It is a familiar and brutal response to nationwide protests, now in their second week. The Iranian currency is collapsing, inflation rising, and the cost of living becoming hard to bear. Shopkeepers, traders and students on the streets blame government mismanagement. Officials say publicly they are willing to talk.
The government is trying to be more amenable to dialogue. President Pezeshkian has offered to mediate and engage. He's acknowledged responsibility.
But as the president offers dialogue, the security forces are cracking down, attacking protesters holed up in this hospital in Ilam. Social media footage shows forces inside looking for injured protesters and those trying to hide. The US State Department said, quote, "The assault on the injured with tear gas and live ammunition is a blatant crime against humanity." The US president has already threatened to step in if protesters are killed.
We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
A move against the Iranian regime that Israel's prime minister has been encouraging.
So, look,
actions or statements raised by figures.
I'm honestly not the most informed when it comes to Israel and the beefs that they've got going on. Maybe I'll inform myself more and talk about it more on this channel. If you want to see that, let me know down in the comments. But what I do know is they got big problems with Iran. And that's part of the reason why the United States and Israel cozy up, because it's like they got all these problems in the Middle East. And it's like, it's kind of shared ops over there, okay? And it's very, very complicated. And it's a lot bigger than just what's going on in Palestine. You've got groups that are basically kind of backing terrorist groups that are inflaming the situation. And essentially, I'm not for or against Israel, but I do feel like, Israel-Palestine, it's such a complicated conflict, and I would like to educate myself more about that and the issues that are going on. I think there has been very, very sad and just like needless escalations in that situation. I want to learn more about it. So if you want to learn more about that with me, let me know down in the comments, man. But what is very clear is that Iran is killing protesters. They're going to the hospitals to try and take people out and throw tear gas in there and injure and harm people. And Trump said it's not going to run. Now it seems like they're still doing it. So we got to ask ourselves, okay, then what's going to happen? What's Trump going to do to Iran? But anyway, back to the narco side of things. Okay, so prior to the Venezuela invasion, Trump was already waging this kind of quiet war against drug traffickers. And the leader of Colombia said that it wasn't working, but it might actually turn out that that was a bunch of cap and cope, really, because as I told you in that previous video, Trump had apparently caught 115 hats, literally over 100 narco terrorists, as he would call them, were killed in operations that the Americans put on Venezuela, as well as Colombia, and some of these kind of, Latin American countries that basically, basically people are saying he's using this drug war as a front, as a cloak to basically seize oil and go after these countries that have got oil. And if that's how he's going to play it, that's how he's going to play it. But, okay, this is basically the Colombian leader saying that the war wasn't working, but then we're going to hear from some of the real big dogs running things who might be selling you a different story.
Since early September, President Donald Trump has ordered a series of controversial military strikes on boats in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. The administration says the vessels were smuggling drugs from Venezuela and from Colombia. But officials in both countries and many in Washington are questioning whether that's true and whether these strikes are even legal. It started on September 2nd when President Trump posted a video online that showed what he said was a strike on a, quote, Venezuelan narco-terrorist boat. He claimed the
That's Trump's first hat, right? They started doing this at the start of September, literally just smoking fools. Like narco-terrorist boats, or however they want to call it, narco boats, they've blown them up. He catching hats, he doesn't care, he's killing you. Literally, he's just smoking you fools. And look, I'm honestly, drugs are bad, but at the same time, like, I would probably legalize all drugs if it was up to me. I think legalizing drugs would probably do more to stop the drug wars and the cartels than blowing up their boats. But, this is theatrics for Trump, and he wanted to use this as leverage to basically make more serious interventions in these countries and eventually get that sweet oil. But he's catching hats, man. And since September, they've been blowing up narco subs and just killing them fools.
11 people killed were linked to Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Maduro denied it.
So that's what he's doing, right? Venezuela's talking about, oh, we don't have no coca leaf production, we don't have any cocaine production. Well, they're saying that the people that got blown up, the bodies that they found, they're saying they linked to you. They're saying you run in this coca leaf production.
País libre de producción de hoja de coca. Libre de producción de cocaína.
Less than 2 weeks later, there was another strike, this time killing 3 people. When asked by reporters about that strike, Trump said the incident occurred in international waters. And he insisted, quote, we have proof that that boat was carrying drugs because of the cargo that was in the ocean. On September 19th, the third strike followed, killing 3 more people. Trump alleged that they were working for an unspecified, quote, designated terrorist organization. On October 3rd, Trump announced a 4th strike, 4 people killed, claiming that the vessel carried enough drugs to kill, quote, 25 to 50,000 people. Colombian President Gustavo Petro said one of those killed was a Colombian fisherman and was not involved in drug trafficking.
No hay necesidad de tirar misiles, es absolutamente ineficaz. Y no parece estar dirigida esa acción realmente a incautar cocaína, sino a una invasión, que también es absurdamente ilegal.
Trump used a Navy anniversary speech to announce yet another strike. 6 men killed in the Caribbean.
In recent weeks, the Navy has supported our mission to blow the cartel terrorists the hell out of the water.
And just days after that, on October 16th, a strike left 2 survivors. They were quickly handed over to their home countries of Colombia and Ecuador, a move that prevented them from challenging their detention in court.
So they're basically, everybody's saying they're all innocent fishermen. They need 12 to 1500 horsepower to keep up with those high-speed bass we're hearing a lot about. Amazing those idiots are still even running those drug boats. No fishing poles, no fishing nets, no fishing bait, no fish cargo. Just fish scale, baby. That's all they got. It's amazing anybody even survived those. It's those packets of cocaine floating in the water that seem problematic for the words alleged. All right, people saying this is what I call a war on drugs. Now it's interesting when you see the Colombian president talking about, oh, there's no cocaine, there's no there's nothing like that going on. It's innocent fishermen. It makes you think, are you involved? Maybe you are involved. Maybe it is a narco state. I'm not saying it is, but it does make you wonder. Surely you should be happy that Trump is coming in to, dish out some street justice on your drug smugglers. Now I'm not going to say I'm pro drugs, but I'm definitely not pro war on drugs. I'm just observing this, okay? I feel like this shouldn't be happening. I feel like the drugs shouldn't even be illegal. It shouldn't even be a thing where these guys are having these narco boats where they're even going to make money. There should just be, Walmart should just be selling all the heroin and cocaine they want, all right? If you fucked up all of that stuff, that's on you, all right? You can buy alcohol. I don't drink alcohol, all right? So if you can destroy your body with cheeseburgers and alcohol, why not allow people to destroy their bodies with cocaine and take the power away from the smugglers? But that's a story for another day. But what's interesting, all right, is that although some of the leaders of these alleged narco states are saying this whole blowing up the boats is ineffective, in fact, and I'm scared of even talking about these guys, but members of the deadly and vicious Sinaloa cartel that be running things in Mexico, they apparently said the opposite. They apparently said Trump's got the block hot. Look at this.
I do what I have to do.
Why do you say you do what you have to do? Couldn't you stop doing this?
No puedo.
You can't.
Ya cuando entras, ya no sales muchas veces, amigo.
Once you get in, you can't get out. Do you think what President Trump has been doing has been making your job tougher?
Oh, yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
But it's becoming more difficult, you think?
Yeah.
In a bizarre interview on CNN, an anonymous member of the Sinaloa cartel explained that Trump's immigration and drug policies have put a damper on their black market tradecraft. Dressed conspicuously in a black mask, sunglasses, black gloves, and a hat to conceal his identity, the alleged leader of El Chapo's former gang met with CNN's senior national correspondent, David Culver, inside an SUV at a Phoenix parking lot. The cartel member, who said he is not a U.S. citizen, revealed that cartel members are using Americans to help transport illicit drugs into the country.
You all are using social media to get to young people, young teens, and recruiting them to be part of it. Some of them, many of them, are American citizens too.
It's just like that.
That's life.
It's like that, But
so even though they may get caught and spend many years in prison, that's their fault, as you see.
Yeah.
CNN further revealed that cartels are charging much more to get migrants across the southern U.S. border because of Trump's crackdown on illegal migration. According to Fox News, border hoppers are expected to pay $10,000 each instead of about $6,500 per person prior to the Trump-era policies. The Trump administration has dramatically stepped up its battle against the cartels. In early September, President Trump revealed that the U.S. military killed 11 people in a drug-carrying boat off the coast of Venezuela, days after deploying warships to the coast of the South American country. A few weeks later, the president ordered 2 more strikes against drug smugglers on boats, killing 6. The anonymous man on CNN is not the first Sinaloa cartel member to credit the Trump administration for its robust approach to halting the human and drug trafficking operations at the southern border. In September, Margarito J. Flores Jr., who made millions with his twin brother as members of the drug cartel, praised the president in an interview.
I think the aggressive approach is going to send a strong message to every drug trafficker across Latin America, in places like Venezuela that's used as a transport hub from Mexican cartels and Colombian organizations to transport their drugs. That they're going to go after everyone.
So people in the drug game are saying Trump's heavy-handed approach is actually fucking shit up. All right, you got the cartel leaders allegedly saying Trump's making it harder. People saying, of course, CNN knows the cartel leader. Why is the CNN journalist sad that he has difficulties because of Trump? It's CNN. I'm confused. CNN sat down with the cartel leader in America for an interview and didn't notify the feds. I don't recall it ever being easy to meet a cartel member, let alone a leader, right? Did he also say Biden made his job easier? Sinaloa family man can't afford to enroll his kids in college. Democrats, right? I bet he's a registered voter. The cartel leader disguised as a Muslim woman. Stop. All right, I'm going to stop. I don't want to get in trouble here, right? So look, we're going to shift to a lighter note. On a lighter note, okay, maybe the real reason that Trump actually wanted to take out Maduro is apparently he has called him out for allegedly stealing his signature dance.
He's a violent guy. He gets up there and he tries to imitate my dance a little bit. But he's a violent guy, and he's killed millions of people. He's tortured. They have a torture chamber in the middle of Caracas that they're closing up. But he's tortured people, and he's a violent guy.
They're saying he's a violent guy. He's got them violent dance moves, man. And bear in mind, Trump has consistently been performing these dance moves, all right? Almost exclusively to the classic hit song YMCA, okay? I don't want to play the song. But look, you know Trump be doing these dance moves. This is the move that he's pulling after he smokes 12 Colombians on a boat, all right? He finna catch 12 hats and then pull this dance move. It's actually crazy, okay? But interestingly, during that same speech, when he talked about it, he revealed that even his wife isn't actually a fan of him doing these dance moves on stage, right?
When I do this. My wife, by the way, my wife hates when I do this. She said, you know, she's a very classy person, right? She said, it's so unpresidential. I said, but I did become president. She hates when I dance. I said, everybody wants me to dance. Darling, it's not presidential. She actually said, could you imagine FDR dancing? She said that to me. And I said, there's a long history that perhaps she doesn't know. Because he was an elegant fellow, even as a Democrat, right? He was...
So FDR was it was paralyzed, if you didn't know, all right? That's why that's funny. But anyway, okay, Trump finna do the naughty bop, finna do the get sturdy after catching another hat. He might have to start a new dance called the Maduro bop, where he just like, you know what I'm saying, binds his hands up or something. But okay, the last thing I'm gonna leave you with, okay, after this little recap of everything political. After meeting with Congress for a security brief, okay, Marco Rubio laid out the future plans for Venezuela, and he let the people know what's going to be, what we're going to do with Venezuela. We're going to do with this oil.
By the way,
that's the wrong link, my bad. What are we going to do with all of this sweet oil?
Let's hold in place, please.
Where does this end?
I'm against everything he said. So,
Why are you doing this behind closed doors?
well, there's a lot of operational details that can't be discussed publicly, obviously, for obvious reasons. So, as we move forward, we'll describe our process, which is a threefold process in Venezuela. I've described it to them now. Step one is the stabilization of the country. We don't want it descending into chaos. Part of that stabilization, and the reason why we understand and believe that we have the strongest leverage possible, is our quarantine. As you've seen today, 2 more ships were seized. We are in the midst right now, and in fact about to execute on a deal to take all the oil. They have oil that is stuck in Venezuela. They can't move it because of our quarantine and because it's sanctioned. We are going to take between 30 and 50 million barrels of oil. We're going to sell it in the marketplace at market rates, not at the discounts Venezuela was getting. That money will then be handled in such a way that we will control how it is dispersed in a way that benefits the Venezuelan people, not corruption, not the regime. So we have a lot of leverage to move on the stabilization front. The second phase will be a phase that we call recovery, and that is ensuring that American, Western, and other companies have access to the Venezuelan market in a way that's fair. Also, at the same time, begin to create the process of reconciliation nationally within Venezuela so that the opposition forces can be amnestied and released and from prisons or brought back to the country and begin to rebuild civil society. And then the third phase, of course, will be one of transition. Some of this will overlap. I've described this to them in great detail. We'll have more detail in the days to follow. But we feel like we're moving forward here in a very positive way.
How long will this take, Secretary?
So they're really taking that oil, okay, and they're going to sell it at market rate. Venezuela and Maduro, they were selling that oil for the low. They were selling it cheap. With the sanctions, they were selling it to some shady characters because they couldn't do business with the big dogs. America, they're the biggest game in town. You know what I mean? They're going to sell it in their own marketplace. I'm trying to see them oil prices be lowered. And look, anybody that knows economics, all right, you'll know, okay, even if they're selling it at market rate, they're increasing the supply of oil to America, which is going to push the prices down. There's going to be a more abundant supply of oil in the United States and the North American marketplace. And that's going to mean that there's plenty of oil to go around. The prices are going to go down a little bit, okay? Even if they're selling it at market rate, the market rate is going to go down. So you might actually see your gas prices going down as a result of this. But anyway, okay, that's the latest political update. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. I'm actually really, really inspired by how many people have actually been tapping in and watching and commenting on the political videos I've been doing. I never would have thought that's something you guys would have enjoyed. So thank you so much. I'll do more of these if you guys keep watching it. If you don't, then that's cool. We're going to move on to some other topics. But this channel is all about me just sharing my passions with you guys, looking into stuff that I'm interested in. And you know what? I'll keep it real. Hip hop, drill, all of that stuff is what I love. It's my first passion, but it's down bad right now, man. There's barely any hip hop songs on the charts. Okay, we got the David story that we're following, and I feel like this Venezuela story is really interesting, and I just want to learn about it. I don't claim to be no political expert in any way, shape, or form. Okay, I'm just trying to learn what's going on with you guys. Thank you so much for watching and supporting me. Everybody that does support, I'm really grateful. I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'm out here for now. Peace.